All right, we're going to talk about a special technique with Waterless. So it's actually creating a negative image from a positive drawing. So the materials you want to put on the plate none of them should be water soluble. They need to be removed with an oil or a mild solvent. So I have some that I know work. I have a couple I'm going to experiment with just on my plate, but things that work. This is like traditional touche for lithography. There are some different types. This is produced by Stone's Crayons. Comes in a kind of a cake form in a can. Put water in and dissolve as much as you want for what value, pour it out, and then you use that. Kind of my personal favorite is Corns. Corns has a long tradition with making lithographic materials, pencils, touche, solid autographic ink, things like that. So with this one, you typically rub some off on a plate, like I've done in this black plate here, and then dissolve it with water. So I like it because it doesn't get contaminated by people putting water in and pouring it off and leaving some in. So it's like a chocolate bar, you just take off a little bit. Okay, so the other thing that will work, I know, is a lithographic crayon. You see here, on pencil, this is also a lithographic crayon in a block form. I'm going to try a China marker because I think that would have the same effect as a litho crayon for this purpose. Ballpoint pen, and another thing I have here is I've rolled out a thin film of ink on a slab, and so it's on this brayer, and I'm going to create a tone by rolling on the plate with it. Also, for solids, the traditional, there might be other things, but the traditional asphaltum liquid will be a solid area. So I'm going to first apply the brayer with the ink, and I'm going to kind of rock it a little bit, kind of give it an effect, avoid that font, that edge. Depends how you would want to apply it, but I'm going to apply it or not. I guess I need to get some fresh ink. I'll pause this and all right, so I'm going to come down with pressure. And that. Oh, initially I put on some gum arabic. Now that those eventually should be, I think, little highlights in the image. I've found out that if I do the whole process and print these, the plate will be white in certain areas, but where I applied the gum, it will be even a little more clean, I should say. Or you could use it, like sometimes I use it on the edge, just like a drawing material. Create some nice little lines. Now remember, all the lines you're putting, well, all the materials you're putting on here now, like what I've done, is going to be negative. So I try to shoot for a balance of positive, negative space on these pieces. So I have that. Maybe next I will apply some of this touche on here. So with touche you have some control obviously over the value you mix, how much material is mixed together for darker or lighter. Also how heavily it's applied, so a big heavy petal will be darker obviously than a little dry brush. Now I wouldn't want to go over the gummed area because that will be dissolved with water and mixed with the touche and give me a different effect. But or if I just kind of brush it out, it would be a different value. Or if I puddle it on like that. Hi, Ronnie. Push that out. So all these negative areas now are eventually, if I left it as they are, be nice solid black areas when we finish processing our and printing our work. Now the litho crayon. Go over here. And similar to that would be a China marker. Another, just the litho crayon in the block form. A little heavier line or on the side. Combs like that. Ballpoint pen. And I'm going to try a regular Crayola just to see. I don't know that I've tried it before, but sometimes I like to just experiment with some potential materials. That's why I do these kind of abstract drawings just with marks. So there. And then for what would be a white area, I'm going to apply some of this asphaltum. So typically it's used in traditional lithography as to create a solid. Since this is going to be the reverse, this will be a negative space there. So at this point I need to let everything dry, and then I will continue with processing the plate. All right, so after all your materials are dry and you've finished with your drawing, this process is like, like other lithographic processes, is very simple in its principle, but there's a lot of potential problems along the way. So we've put on materials that are not dissolved with water, with the exception of the gum. That'll be a light spot up there, but all the others are not dissolved in water. So I don't know that it's that critical, but it's not a bad idea to put a little baby powder or cornstarch on, because what the purpose of that is that this is oil based, and we're going to coat our plate now with gum arabic, which is diluted in water. So if it's real delicate like that, if you look in a microscope, it wants to separate away from that kind of greasy, waxy area. So the powder allows it to stay right in contact with all the fine little microscopic dots, but it's not that critical. So I'll put a little powder on here. This cloth already has some on it. Just kind of go over the surface. So if you forget to do that or don't have it, probably not. That isn't a real critical step. Okay, so next we're going to coat it with gum arabic 4.0. So we want to coat the whole surface. It's not a time factor, but if you there wouldn't be a reason to do this for a longer period of time, but it will get a little sticky. Could wear a glove. It's a little acidic, but I'll wash my hands off when I'm finished. Gum arabic isn't that hazardous, and like I said, this doesn't have extra acid added. And then we're going to take a cheesecloth. If you don't have that, you could just use a paper towel or something and wipe this down. So now I'm going to wipe it down to a thin film. I'm going to get rid of the excess gum around the side, but you want to wipe it down to a thin film because we have to remove all the drawing materials. So think about it, there's still going to be a little gum covering everything. And if it's thick, you won't be able to remove those materials. So you want to get it down really thin and in good contact with the drawing material. So this is kind of a, I really am kind of pleased with the way these results look. It's unexpected and has a kind of a unique look to it. And in different processes, there are different ways to do this. Think about lithography using the polyester or smart plate with a photocopy. You could have your image go in, make a reversal and negative, print it out on a smart plate and print it that way. But you know, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but this is pretty straightforward, basic, and like I said, has a really kind of unique and nice look to the finished print.